Golic and Smetty here.
Have you ever thought about what it would be like to start a podcast with your dad?
Welcome back to another edition of Golic and Smetty. I am Mike Golic Sr. She is Jess Matana, and we have not talked to one another, done a pod in a couple of weeks. It feels like that married couple, we did about 48 or 50 of them, and then we took 2 off, and I felt like we haven't seen each other in months.
I know. How are you doing, Mike? I miss you.
I feel I'm 65 now instead of 60. I feel like I've aged incredibly during this time. I was like,
don't
wow.
look a day over 61. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Jess. You know what? I
know
have.
You miss me too.
Yeah, you know what I haven't missed is that shit. Let me tell you that right now.
Well, we're back. We're back, Mike.
Yeah, we're back, and I think your dad is happy we're back because all the lame-ass stuff you pull on him, now you pull on me, so he's safe for a while because I get it all.
And he doesn't have anyone's sports opinions to copy when he's not listening to you. So,
there you go.
Good news for all the dads out there that need to get some information and some knowledge from Mike Golic. He's back. We're going to be doing episodes every week again. No breaks in sight, Mike. So where do we want to start today? Because I would like to know what you've been up to since I saw you last.
Well, we're certainly going to get to football because as the taping of this is the tag deadline, and we have guys that are tagged. We have news out there as well that by the time you hear this, you'll know what's going on. We have Lamar Jackson news and other players that were tagged. So there's plenty to get to there. But so the last couple of weeks, while I've been kind of, it's I know you're going to feel bad for me because it was a great week of Super Bowl. It's the last time we were together. The weather was beautiful. It's been kind of chilly in Arizona for the last couple of weeks. So feel bad for me.
I do.
Because of that. So I've been inside doing what I do a lot, and that's watch Netflix, Hulu, HBO Plus, Showtime. I mean, I'm watching Your Honor. I'm watching we're going to get to the Netflix stuff. Do you watch The Last of Us on HBO Max?
I do. It's so scary though. It is the scariest it's the scariest HBO show I've watched since Game of Thrones, which scared me shitless and gave me nightmares at night. The Last of Us it's scarier because it takes place in America. And it is what would happen if there was a fungus apocalypse.
Yes. Yeah.
And everyone lived in this dystopian, weird, creepy future. And I hate it. But it's a really good show.
Are you all caught up? Have you seen everything?
I did not see the episode this Sunday night.
Which
I heard was scary.
The last one you saw was when she kind of went back and we kind of found out about her past a little bit and such. This last one, Jess, I'm not going to lie. I never watch it when it's on Sunday night.
Me too, because it's dark out and I need to watch it in sunlight.
Okay, that's not the reason I do it, but okay, be a wuss. No, that's not why I do it. But I just finished the latest one. Wow. This one is going to get you. This one, you're going to see those two. The survivalist shows up in both of them. On this one, that's all I'll say.
Don't spoil it for me. Don't spoil it for me. I already think I had part of it spoiled on Twitter, and I'm not going to say what it was, but it's a word that's scary and starts with a C and ends with an ism.
Yeah.
All right?
Oh, yeah. That's very true. That's very true. But it's not what you think of when you think of that word that you're thinking of, not how it's portrayed. You'll understand it when you hear it, but I
haven't been able to eat mushrooms in a month, Mike.
Oh, you don't want to get the fungi apocalypse fungus,
so
huh?
Gross.
Yeah. But
it's a good show.
And I think there's only one more after you get caught up. I think there's only one more episode. And I have not heard this again. How I'm different than my son Mike Gojo, the Gojo show on DraftKings, the download, rate, subscribe, rate, review, all that. Same with Golic and Smetty. See, I'm trying to learn the lingo.
I like it, yeah.
But after he watches something, he goes into the internet black hole.
Rabbit hole.
Yes. I don't. I just go on I go on Showtime and I go on Your Honor, and I'm watching Bryan Cranston and I'm doing that thing, I move on to something else. He dies. Do you do that? Do you kind of find out all the inner workings?
I do for a lot of shows. I've gotten a little bit into The Last of Us because it's based off a video game, which I think most people know.
Right.
And so people that have played the video game know where it's going and what is kind of happened in the past, and they have a little bit more context and insight into the universe that the characters live in. So I've done a little bit, not a lot. I did more of this during like fantasy shows that I've watched, like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings series. And it's fun to supplement your viewing that way, but I think it also kind of can be like, you want to watch the show and focus on the things you see also, and not get too wrapped up in like all the other things that aren't part of the show. So yeah, there's pros and cons to it, but like if I get really obsessed with something, yeah, I'll read every single article or post that goes along with it.
So now I heard, again, this is, when I say I heard, it's basically Mike telling me that the video gamers who play this video game, they're supposedly not real happy with the portrayal of the.
Really?
I don't know. I've never played the video game, so I have no idea what to compare it to.
See, that's what I mean, because like with Lord of the Rings, with that series that came out on Amazon last fall, there was really, really negative fan reactions to it, and also really positive reactions. And I liked the show, and I thought it was really good. And so reading some of the negative reactions to it made me a little bummed out. And so I kind of stopped, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to watch what they make and wait for the next season to come out, because I don't want other people's opinions to ruin it for me. Like it wasn't a show that I necessarily agreed with every choice that the directors made, or every storyline was super strong and amazing, but I generally liked it. And when I generally like something, there's always someone out there on the internet who's trying to ruin it for you. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna back off from the fan theories and everything like that with this one.
All right, so we're gonna get into Drive to Survive. F1 started out again. They had their first race of the year, Full Swing, which is a new Netflix documentary on the PGA Tour. I want to get into that. Tons of football to get into as well, not just who got tagged, but who's been signed, and where and the combine is over. I always have thoughts on the combine, but let's quickly hash it out a little bit. We got into it just a bit on Twitter. You and Mike with your love of Lord of the Rings, and isn't there what is coming out that has to do with Lord of the Rings that's over 4 hours long? That is an atrocity.
Okay, first of all, hold your horses, buddy, because atrocity, no. The post that you're talking about, your son tagged me in, and apparently they're re-releasing the extended edition of Return of the King in theaters, which is a 4-hour and 11-minute movie, I believe.
Come on!
I think the ending itself is 2 hours, because that movie ends 7 times. I cry during every single ending, so I have no complaints about that film. I love the Lord of the Rings movies. There's rumors that Warner Brothers might make more Lord of the Rings movies, or remake them, which I don't know why you would do that, because the original 3 are perfect and they're 12 hours long if you watch all the extended editions. But I don't know if I have the attention span to sit through Return of the King in the theater. I watch it at least once a year at home. I do a yearly Lord of the Rings marathon with myself on my couch. And 4.5 hours is a really long time to not use the bathroom, not just kind of glance at your phone, text your friends and family because they think you went missing because you haven't talked to them in 4 hours. Have a few snacks, that sort of thing. So I don't know if I'm gonna go and watch the re-release of it, but it's not an atrocity. Okay, it's a really good movie.
Let's get
that straight.
It's an abomination. So
it is
first off, I could if there was a 4-hour movie and I liked it, I could do it. I don't mind putting my phone down for 4 hours. Hell, I put it down for a day. I can deal with it. I would sneak in enough candy to last me 4 hours, and yes, I said it.
I believe that. Yeah.
Yes, I said it. And I would just have a big cup, and I would pee in the cup. Okay, little more difficult for the women. I understand, but so I could deal with it. But I'm going to tell you something too. My wife and I both cried during these movies as well because they were so fucking long. That's why we cried. I mean, we're sitting there. My wife Chris was telling me she took, I think Mike to it, or I don't know if Jake went. I don't think Jake likes him, but Mike was there. And she said, just what you said. She swears it was ending and then went on for another hour and a half. And yeah, she cried tears of sorrow, not tears of joy.
Well,
oh
it's
my
sad
God.
Because Sam and Frodo split up and then they go in front of Aragorn and he's the king, and you bow for no one, and then that's sad, and then like they're on Mount Doom and the Eagles come, like that's sad, and they talk about strawberries. Like I get why you cried. There's a lot to cry about.
The reason I missed it is because I had 2 sharp pencils stuck in each eye. Okay.
Oh my God.
Because I couldn't watch it.
This
I
is
couldn't
so mean. We might need to take another 2-week break after this episode.
Yeah,
I'm ride or die for Lord of the Rings, so
Yeah.
I feel I am judging you hard right now.
I could see you and Mike going that way together. You guys would be just loving it. Does your boyfriend like it?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh,
He's
he
actually
does.
He's the first person who ever pointed out to me that the Return of the King has like 5 endings. Once when we were watching it, and I was like, no, it doesn't. And then we watched it together, and I was like, he's got a point. But I never even realized that or noticed it because I was so invested in it the first 15 times that I watched it before he said that I never even realized.
So let me ask you a question. Does he really like it, or because you're still dating, is he just saying he likes it?
No, he really likes it, and he knows he doesn't have a choice anyways. Also, Mike, while we're recording this, here is my leather-bound copy of the Silmarillion in case you need anything to borrow to read.
I don't know what the Silmarillion is, Jess.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
The
What is it?
Silmarillion.
What is that?
It's a J.R.R. Tolkien book that takes place in Middle Earth. And
It's leather bound and tied closed.
Yeah.
Can I ask how much you paid for that?
This was actually a gift from my sister for my birthday. This actually so J.R.R. Tolkien was a phenomenal artist.
I definitely know J.R.R. Tolkien. Yeah. So
He drew a lot of the art that's in the original editions of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And he has an art style that I would love to try to emulate, but it's so cute and fantastical. And so some of these editions of his books have his drawings and sketches in them. This one has a map of Middle Earth in it. If you want to look at the map, I used to pour over this baby all the time, Mike. We got a little map here. We got.
Why did you pour over a map of Middle Earth?
Just to see, where the hobbits were going.
Do you know, Jess? I don't know if this is a spoiler. I'm not sure. And I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to tell you this.
Okay.
It's make-believe.
Okay? You don't know that. And it's real in my heart. So what are you trying to do here, Mike?
All I have to say is if we tried to do a podcast for 4 hours, people would shut us down.
I could
4 hours.
That is a long time. I think when you do the candy thing, you have to pick 4 different types of candy, and each the start of each hour, you go to the next type of candy. So you have like a way to look forward to the beginning of each hour.
Jess, I'm going to say something, and you won't be shocked at this.
Right.
When I go to the movies, we'll go to the movies, and I'll get all the stuff I'm going to get. I normally finish it all before the movie starts.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I know. I knew it wouldn't. So your little trick of each hour a different candy.
It's like a little treat. Yeah,
no,
okay.
It doesn't last. I wish
Fair
it did.
enough.
So you and Mike can look forward to that.
I will do that.
Yeah, I will sit that one out. But I know something that we do agree on is certainly. I wonder where we'll agree on Full Swing, which is the Netflix PGA version of Drive to Survive, but. F1 has started again. Again, you do a F1 podcast for DraftKings.
Yes.
So you got it, and they were in Bahrain.
For Metal Arc, it's called DNF.
I'm sorry.
It's with Spencer Hall. Yeah.
Right. For Metal Arc.
We put out our first episode this week. All good.
Called DNF, and it was in Bahrain. That's where the first one was.
Bahrain.
God. Bahrain.
It's all right.
Yeah. Well, you know.
There's a lot of races.
But so the one thing is in Drive to Survive. Before we get to the race. I'm a little bummed Daniel Ricciardo was out of this thing. Now, that guy has been a great personality. So we got some new faces in F1 this season, correct?
There are. So Daniel Ricciardo is not on the grid. He's not racing with McLaren this year, but he is the reserve driver for Red Bull. So he's still around. And honestly, I think that was a great PR decision from Red Bull because last year their drivers got in a big fight pretty much at the end of the season. So they're like, you know what? Let's bring in a distraction. How about this super popular Australian guy that everyone thinks is hilarious? So good.
Why
for them,
doesn't he have a ride? Why isn't he with the team?
Well, so he did very poorly at McLaren.
Right.
He finished on the podium once. He finished in first place in 2021 at Monza, but he was really struggling with the car there. And then after they agreed to part ways, I'm sure he got some money out of it because he was on a multi-year deal. He had only a few options of where he could go, and I think teams viewed him as an older driver that is, probably asking for a lot of money, that had really struggled recently. So the teams that had seats open didn't really fit with what he was looking for. Like some of the teams near the back of the grid, maybe they could have worked something out, but they probably didn't want to pay him as much as he wanted, and he probably didn't want to race in a worse car than the McLaren car that he was already struggling with. So there wasn't really a good fit for him, I think. And so instead of just deciding to do like IndyCar, which a lot of, some Formula One drivers have done after they've left Formula One, or another racing series, he decided to stay with Formula One, and he's still, going to races and part of a team, but he's not driving on the grid. And he probably won't drive on the grid unless, one of the Red Bull drivers gets hurt or gets sick or something like that.
And they so I'm going to give you my quick overview. You dive into it more than I do. You're into I'm still like this casual fan, but this is what I took away from the first race. Red Bull's still dominant. Verstappen wins it. They go 1-2 in this thing, I believe it was. And so they're still dominant. Lewis Hamilton has Mercedes, has a long way to go, so they're really behind the back. But it was Aston Martin, right? Yeah. That was the shocker, right? I mean, that all of a sudden they've jumped 100%. Up into the mix. I know it's only the first race, but everybody is saying, and was it Ferrari or Red Bull? Who was it that said they like copied their car and it's like the sincerest form of flattery or something?
I think that was Red Bull last year.
I think so. Yeah.
So, Aston Martin was a big surprise during testing and during qualifying before Bahrain. Their car was really, really fast, and it ended up with, a driver on the podium with Fernando Alonso, who's the oldest driver on the grid, Mike. He's 41 years old.
Wow.
He's been a really good driver his entire career, but for the last 7 years hasn't really won anything or done much. And he was at Alpine before this current Aston Martin deal, and left very kind of surprisingly left last season to go to Aston Martin. Aston Martin's other driver is Lance Stroll, whose dad owns the team. And so there's already been some interesting politics with all of that, because I think Fernando Alonso, as the senior, veteran driver, wants to be the number one guy there. But obviously when your dad owns the team, you feel like, Lance Stroll probably feels a little entitled to being that guy. And Fernando Alonso is a better driver, obviously has way more experience, but Lance Stroll's also pretty good. So I think there's going to be some interesting politics. But like you said, it's only the first race. We'll see how long Aston Martin can keep up with the front of the pack. If they can for the full season, I think it'll be really fun and interesting. If not, either way, watching Fernando Alonso on the podium in the first race of this season in his 41st year was super entertaining for a lot of fans. Yeah,
that was pretty cool to see. So that season starts, so I look forward to watching that again, and I'm starting up on Drive to Survive Season 5. But now we're in Season 1 of full swing. If anybody doesn't know what that is, it's basically the documentary on the PGA Tour. They follow the guys on the PGA Tour. And like the first one, they were big on Justin Thomas and Spieth, on what the friendship that they had. And so you're kind of pulling the curtain back and learning about these guys a little bit. It doesn't look like Tiger really was a part of this thing. He's not interviewed for anything, and that's certainly not shocking. But I've seen a few episodes of that, and I guess my word would be it's okay. I always like delving behind a little bit and getting backstories. Right. And, we just see these guys Thursday through Sunday. You don't see a lot of them now. You go just like in Drive to Survive. You go behind the scenes and you get to know them all a little bit, their wives or their girlfriends. Every single one of them flies private, which is cool as hell. But the one that got me the most was, dude, what is it? Is it Joel
Damon?
Joel Damon, who was ranked 70th in the world and is extremely happy with just being 70th in the world. And then, what was it, last year at the U.S. Open, he was, right there, trying to win that thing, But it was cool, kind of his laissez-faire, kind of nonchalant attitude, and all these other guys they were showing the mansions that lived in. He just lives in a regular house, going and buying a stroller because his wife is pregnant. And to me was my favorite one so far.
I think that was my favorite episode also. But you said that you thought the show was okay. Would you say that it's fair to say that it's boring?
Well, listen. In all honesty, golf is kind of boring, right? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, now Formula One. Don't get me. Formula One is exciting because there's high speed, there's action, but there's also there are times when F1 can be a little boring because
for sure,
you can't pass, and things, and it's like where you are, in the pole and all that. A lot of times
it depends on the race. Honestly, some races are just boring because they're like Monaco.
They are.
You can't really pass anyone in front of you.
But golf, there's never going to be any. Oh shit! I can't wait to see what happens now. There's not going to be any of that. But you know that going in. So I mean, at least you should know that going in. Right. The only kind of interesting thing was how they were going to treat. They the first year of it they were smart because it's during when the players jump to live. Like they did a lot with Ian Poulter jumping over to live. And guys' decisions on doing that and the drama, I think that'll build a little more with the drama on that because we haven't heard Rory talk about that yet, in the series. So, but yes, because golf can be somewhat boring. So, there will be times that thing. That's why sometimes I'd like to see more behind the scenes and on the golf course, quite honestly.
I think my problem with it was that the behind the scenes wasn't that interesting either. Like I thought that. Like you said, there were a couple storylines that I liked, and like I like the Tony Fino episode. He seems like a great guy, but there wasn't anything like particularly like compelling about a lot of the storylines. And like you said, like the montages of golf plays don't really make for exciting television. Like I think you could slice together 10 minutes of Formula One, and even if it's a boring race, you get the most exciting few seconds and put them all together.
You're kind of on the edge of your seat, especially because let's be honest.
You can't do it with golf.
No, you can't. Because let's be honest, in racing, everybody's wondering about a crash. Nobody wants to see anybody get hurt, but they don't mind seeing a crash. You don't mind. You don't mind seeing. Yeah, exactly. There's so much risk involved in racing. I think, which is why it makes it more compelling. But like I used to think racing was boring before I watched Drive to Survive, and then I got to know the characters and the team principals and all these people that aren't afraid to talk shit about each other when the cameras are on, frankly. And I think golf culture is so different than racing culture. You're not really going to get that much of that. I know there's been a lot of stuff that's happened with Rory and Liv and Patrick Reed, and maybe if the cameras can capture some of that, there will be more interesting heroes and villains, because that's, I think, kind of what you need. That's what you need, yeah.
This show, it didn't have too much of that. I didn't find it super compelling. I didn't come away being like, oh my God, I hate this. Like, these guys they stink. It was just like, yeah, that was nice. Okay, sure. Like, I don't know.
I'm with you. No,
could have watched I could have watched like Jordan Spieth's like Instagram story and come away with like the same.
I agree. The one thing I did know that Brooks Koepka, his wife, loves the camera.
Yeah. Well, she's I think she was in Sharknado. She was an actress, right?
Oh, well, there you go.
I don't know. I think I might be wrong, or I don't know, Mike.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I think we agree on that. I'm watching it just because I do like some of the backstories. What was it? The Justin Thomas. It was his dad. He's a third generation.
Yeah.
His dad was his coach, and his grandfather was on the tour, and some of that stuff was cool. Like, I mean, there's some of that stuff I just don't know, because, like I said, it's kind of like in any sport, you just see those players on game day.
Yeah.
You don't really get to know them. So that's kind of the best part to me, is to get to know them a little bit. But I certainly know not to expect anything like, oh shit, was that exciting? In this. Right. But I don't think anybody really is going to think that, quite honestly. So
yeah, I mean, I think the show is for new fans, because in the first episode they're like,
explaining
a golf course has 18 holes. Like, I was laughing so hard. It's like, par is the expected number of strokes on a hole. Like, it was so basic, and I was like, which person is seeing like, find me one person out there, who has never played putt-putt and doesn't get that, like, the low score wins. Because to me, if my sister, for example, knows nothing about sports. She is allergic to sports. If I called her and said, who is the head coach at Notre Dame, she'd probably be like, I don't know, Brady Quinn. Like, she has no idea about sports. She knows how scoring works in golf. Like, she knows that, you know, low score wins, which is something they actually explain in the first episode. So, like, I want to know who the person out there is, and maybe this exists. The person out there in the entire world who doesn't understand anything about golf, how it works, how it's played, happens to see something called Full Swing on Netflix and clicks on it and is like, oh, like that, you know.
That's how they do it.
That's what they do. And maybe that person exists. Maybe there's lots of them. I don't know, but I thought it was fairly funny.
No, but listen, we're comparing it to Drive to Survive, and the only thing that's comparable is they're trying to do the same thing. You know, is give you a docuseries behind the scenes. There's no way anybody would think it would be as exciting or action-packed as F1. So, all right, so I think we're kind of on the same page with that one. And then we get to the NFL. So let's start first. We just finished the Combine, and I just forever, once I finished playing, and I was involved in the Combine, my senior year at Notre Dame. The Combine, Lucas Oil Stadium was not built when I came into the league, nor like were you born. So the when I went to my Combine, it was at Arizona State. It was outside on the grass, Arizona State. And so we talk about this Combine every year, and I talk about how it kind of drives me nuts every year that we put so much on guys when they work out in shorts and a T-shirt. When I think the most important thing about the Combine is players meeting with coaches and teams. That way you can get to see somebody face to face. When we did it, when I was doing it, you met in like groups. You know, you didn't meet one-on-one with a team. Now they can meet one. Each team gets X amount of minutes with a player. And I like that. You can, you know, for any position, you could put something up on the board. You can run some film. You could have them explain stuff. You know, you could dive in a little bit. But the working out part, I still to this day, Jess, I don't understand. I brought it up on God Bless Football with Stu and Billy. Remember when Zach Wilson's pro day in shorts and a T-shirt, he rolled left and threw the ball while rolling left down the field, and everybody lost their mind on Twitter
because of it. Yeah.
I'm like, what are we doing? So this one was Anthony Richardson from Florida, who we all knew was going to test out of his mind, and he did.
He's an incredible athlete.
Is a freak. 6'4", 6'5"? I think he was 244.
He had like a 40-inch vertical.
40 and a half. He was bummed he wanted 41. I mean, the dude is a freak. That was never in question. Right. But to watch him work out, and listen, he was going to be a first rounder. But anybody to watch him work out and say, oh, because of the workout, we are now moving him up, I still don't understand it. I don't understand it.
I know exactly what you mean, because I think it's frustrating, especially for college football fans, to hear like draft discourse, because there's two guys in the draft this year, Will Levis from Kentucky and Anthony Richardson, that have been graded really high in the draft because they have the size, the speed, the body type,
good.
Like all these things that you want your quarterback to have.
Yeah, but I want to look like them. They're unreal.
Right.
Yeah.
If you watched any of their games, which, it's hard to grade, I guess, if you're a team that doesn't have great NFL quality weapons, which not every college football team does. But, Anthony Richardson was really hit or miss this season, struggled a lot. Didn't have really consistent week-to-week progress for Florida. Will Levis, same thing. So it's really weird to watch as college football fans, because then you have someone like Bryce Young, who I think the main concern with him is his size. Yeah. He's maybe 5'10", 5'11". He's 204 pounds.
He was 5'10" and an eighth, and he was 204 pounds.
5'10" and an eighth. I rounded up for him.
Yeah.
204 pounds, and can he take a hit and all this stuff? But if you watched Bryce Young play at Alabama, he was incredible. Yep. And Alabama didn't have the weapons this season that they typically have, and he still stood out and won the Heisman last year, and he's an incredible college quarterback. That doesn't always translate in the NFL.
Right.
But there's always players like this, especially at the quarterback position, that college football fans every spring are like, what are we talking about? Like this, Bryce Young's a proven winner. He's proven to have all the skills necessary, but the NFL, they're looking for something else sometimes. And then you see someone like him, maybe he falls a little bit and a team steals him. And it's like, oh, how did we not see this coming? And it's like, well, a lot of people did, but like the metrics change. Everything is always in flux around combine and draft season. And you never really know what's going to happen when people finally make their picks on draft night.
I would want to get my scouts and whoever is checking out talent during the college season, right at the end of the season, I want to get their report on what they think of, let's say, an Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
And then after the combine, tell me why it changed, okay? We knew he was fast. We knew he was a freak athlete. So is your scouting report of him after the football season and then after the combine, is it different? It is, if it's different, because everybody's got him shooting up the draft board now. If it's different, why? Now, if you tell me, listen, we see his skills, we've got him in the room, we put tape up there, and he was masterful. That to me is more important than the fact that he jumped 40 and a half inches.
Right.
Because you know what? If he jumped 38 inches, I'd have been cool with it, okay? All right, I'd be just fine with 37, 38 inches, okay? That's not the thing that's going to say, oh, shit, if he jumped 38 inches, he's a second rounder. It's what coaches saw in the room with him. If you tell me, man, he was unbelievable, then I'm cool with that. Because we see Levis and we see Richardson. We saw bad completion percentages. And a lot of times that doesn't translate well in the NFL. Though, Josh Allen has overcome that.
Josh Allen, I think, is the reason that these guys are going to be drafted really high.
And Jalen Hurts as well. Jalen Hurts overcame it, some of that as well. And you're right. And because of that, they're going to say we can coach that into him because look at the athletes they are. And also, Richardson had a lot of passes dropped. He had a lot of throwaways, so that hurts his completion percentage. I get all that. I've actually watched all these players play. Watch them. And for my money, if you told me who you taking first, I'm taking C.J. Stroud from Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean.
That's the guy. And that isn't despair because I would take a number of these guys in the first round. Young's a first rounder. Levis a first rounder. Richardson's a first rounder. I'm telling you right now, if Hendon Hooker didn't get hurt at Tennessee, he would be vying for the top spot. Because I loved watching that kid play and what he could do as well, playing the game of football. For anybody that doesn't know, I think it was in November, blew his knee out. They think he'll be ready to play by the beginning of the year, but he's missing all the time before that. So someone will be able to steal him without a doubt. So that that went on, and that's basically what everybody talks about. But I think is the quarterback. But I think the first round is going to be heavy cornerback, heavy wide receiver as well. You'll probably see a couple of tight ends go, including Michael Mayer, who didn't test great. But I knew that was going to happen. He's not going to out-athlete a lot of people, but you know what you do with him? That's the reason why you watch tape. All he does is get it done. All he does is catch the ball. All he does is catch it in traffic. All he does is get people out of the way to catch it or block people. So to me, he's the number one tight end. But there'll be two, maybe three, but I think two tight ends going as well. So all that work is done. I think a lot of these guys are happy. They'll never have to probably run a 40 again. They won't have to broad jump again. They won't have to vert again. They won't have to run around cones or hula hoops and all that kind of shit. They can just get ready to play football. So that's always an interesting thing to me. And then, like I said, as the taping of this is the tag deadline for players. And coming into the taping of this, Jess, we had 4 players, and you could tell me if anything was added, 4 players who got tagged. Tony Pollard, the running back from the Cowboys, Josh Jacobs, the running back from the Raiders, and both those tag numbers are obviously the same. They're right just a little over $10 million. Evan Ingram, the tight end from Jacksonville, got tagged, and for tight ends it's 11.3. Deron Payne, the D tackle from Washington, what a great year he had. Their whole D line is phenomenal in Washington. He got tagged, and he's just a hair under $19 million. I don't think you, again, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody else got tagged, but we know the big news out there of what happened.
Lamar Jackson. So yes, tell everyone what this means. So he signed the non-exclusive franchise tag, which is $32.5 million this year. So now he's going to be able to go and talk to other teams, right? And the Ravens will be able to decide if they want to match it or let him walk, basically. Or
Exactly.
back. Yeah.
Right. And he didn't sign it. It was placed on him. So
Right.
There's two. There's the non-exclusive and the exclusive. So non-exclusive is $32 million, and I'll get to what he can do with other teams. If they put the exclusive on him, which means nobody can negotiate it, I think it was about $45 million. So basically what everybody, and I think I would agree with this, though there is a caveat, is if they put the non-exclusive on him, he was going to be gone. Now, non-exclusive means that another team can sign him, and to sign him, they have to give up 2 first-round draft picks, and they have to come up with a contract. But then Baltimore can match that contract, and then Lamar has to stay with Baltimore. So here's my thought on that, Jess, is they have not been able to come to an agreement on anything, right?
Right.
Nothing. So I wonder if Baltimore is basically saying, Lamar, go ahead. We're going to let the other teams do the work for us. If there's another team out there willing to pay you an ungodly amount of money, let's see it happen, and then we're allowed to match it. So since they couldn't come to an agreement, I think Baltimore is basically saying, all right, we'll let another team go do the work for us, come up with this monster deal, and then we can decide if we want to sign you to that, of which he has to go back and play for Baltimore.
But they're willing to let him walk, which I think is the
they
interesting
are
part.
They're willing to let him walk, but they have the last say. That's the thing. It's like, go ahead, but it's like the yo-yo.
Right.
The string is still attached to my finger, and we can bring you back, if we feel we because they can't come to an agreement. And again, if he goes to another team, that team has to give him that salary and give him two first-round draft picks.
The alternative here was they could have signed him to the long-term deal that he wanted, but by all accounts, it doesn't sound like either side was close. Like Lamar Jackson wanted to be the highest-paid quarterback in terms of guaranteed money, and they didn't want to meet him with the guaranteed money. Is that right?
The whole thing here is every owner in the world is pissed at the Haslams in Cleveland.
Right.
Because they signed Deshaun Watson to a $230 million completely guaranteed deal. So basically Lamar Jackson, and you know what? He's right for doing it, says my deal should start there, or be higher than that, all guaranteed. And all the other owners are ticked that happened because I digress a little bit, because a lot of people see baseball and basketball contracts are fully guaranteed once you sign them. That's not in their CBAs. That is not in writing, in ink, and signed by both parties. That's just the way it is now. There is no rule, there is no CBA agreement that says we pay you whatever deal you sign for, we pay you that full salary. That's just how it works now, because that's what players demanded and got when they're negotiating their deals. So everybody's waiting for the football players to do that, and we know the position that will do that. It's the quarterbacks. So everybody's saying, Lamar, get a fully guaranteed deal. Joe Burrow, get a fully guaranteed deal. Justin Herbert, get a fully guaranteed deal. Jalen Hurts, after the year you had, get and start the ball rolling, because it'll start with the quarterbacks and then maybe bleed over to the other positions. And the teams don't want to do that. There's no way that they want to do that. So that's the battle right now, and I will be interested, because I think this is kind of a great experiment for all of us, and certainly it's going to be for Lamar. What does another team value you at? What do they value? What are they going to offer you that Baltimore has a chance to match?
Right, and the downside, of course, to playing under the tag is if you get hurt, you don't have anything locked in place long term. And Lamar Jackson has had some injury issues. He didn't play the second half of this season. He didn't play a little bit last season. So it's not in his best interest to play under the tag. So it will be really interesting to see which team wants to make any sort of moves for him. But I think at the same time, if you're the Ravens, like, you've constructed your entire roster to complement his style of play. So it's very interesting that they were not willing to make something work with him. I'm certain all the other AFC North teams are delighted to see this, because he has been such a threat in that division at the quarterback position. And without him there, I mean, the Ravens went from Super Bowl contenders with a great defense to, not really able to make any sort of offensive production towards the end of the season. So.
And the thing about it is they're changing O coordinators. They're going to go to more of a pro-style type of an offense. To the point about what they built around him, though, I will say they didn't give him shit at wide receiver. He's got a great tight end, but they didn't give him anything at wide receiver when they had the money. When they weren't paying him, he was on his rookie deal, and they didn't go out and do like, how Miami did with Tyreek Hill and the Raiders did with Devontae Adams. They didn't give him anybody when they had the money to do it. So I wasn't sure what they were doing. And the other thing I'll say, because I always lean on Andrew Brandt, if you don't follow him, he's a great follow, the business side of the NFL. He was in the front office for the Packers for a number of years when Favre was there, and then they went to Aaron Rodgers. And he knows the impact of a lot of contracts. A lot of times you'll see a deal signed like the deal that Carr signed with the Saints. Mm-hmm. $150 million deal.
Yeah,
but
100 guaranteed.
Yeah, but Andrew Brandt kind of broke it down to what it really is, the Geno Smith deal. And kudos to Geno Smith. I'm so happy for him.
Yes.
Of what his deal really is.
Yeah. Did not see that one coming. I mean, his deal's a little similar to Derek Carr's in terms of money, I think, right?
Yeah, he's getting $52 million his first year. It's probably around 60 or 70 maybe for the whole thing guaranteed. But one thing Andrew always says is, because everybody always says, oh, my God, these quarterbacks, they take up a monster chunk of the cap, and then they can't get any help. And Andrew Brandt is the first one to call bullshit on that. And he has listed time after time after time how that is not true, that is on the team. They have to know that. They have to have good capologists, and they should still be able to build winning teams even though they're paying their quarterback. So, as he calls it, it's a lazy excuse. And he's a guy, because I'm nowhere near an expert in that field, so I always look at people who are, and I think he is. So, just because a guy's going to sign that monster deal doesn't mean you can't still build around him.
It's a very silly tactic used to try to get a quarterback to play
less
for under their value. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Which is every GM's dream, because then they have, less money to pay more players they can spend the money on, etc. So, I mean, I think Lamar Jackson seems like he knows his value to the Ravens. Certainly, we'll see where he ends up, if it's back with the Ravens or somewhere else. Yeah,
so Carr ends up with the Saints, and now we have a contingent of Jets brass going to meet Aaron Rodgers. I was going to make the joke and saying we're all going to the dark room, and they're all going to talk in there, but Aaron's out of the dark room now, so I can't make that joke. I mean, Jess, could the Jets, who we always every year say find a way to screw it up, could they possibly get Aaron Rodgers?
By all reports, it sounds like yes. Like I read recently that they're flying to California to meet him today as we're recording this. So we'll see how that shakes out. There were reports out of Green Bay that the Packers were just basically fed up and disgusted, according to a few, Green Bay insiders. So yeah, it seems like this might really be it for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Hopefully the darkness retreat gave him some clarity, I guess, no pun intended. But yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
Jet fans are just going to be waiting for the shoe to drop, right?
Something else is going to happen.
Something bad will happen because, my God, the money you have to pay him. He has a balloon like $52 or $58 million payment due at some point. And, oh, by the way, you have to trade for him, which means you have to give up assets, whether it's players, draft picks, or both in this. So, obviously, we'll continue to keep an eye on all of that. As far as the odds, which is always fun to do, DraftKings Sportsbook, the first pick of the draft odds, Bryce Young, is at -200. Do you see who's second? He has jumped up there. The freak, Anthony Richardson, is +300, and then C.J. Stroud +450. So the top three are quarterbacks, and that's where they are, with Bryce Young being the favorite. But Anthony Richardson now second in that. So I think he'll be the third quarterback picked, Richardson. I think it'll be Young and Stroud that would go before him. But you could have four quarterbacks in the top 10, and I think you'll see some trades. I mean,
Which Bears, is amazing, because, the Bears thing is fascinating and is going to be debated until draft night probably. But I think going into this offseason, a lot of, NFL people were saying that this was a weak quarterback class, and now it appears to be 5 4 or 5 first-round quarterbacks that we've talked ourselves into. And look, I think they're all pretty good. I don't know which one I would want of Richardson or Levis if I were a fan of a team drafting a quarterback this year, but certainly Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are really good. So I know that.
And if Hendon, and I'll say it again, if Hendon Hooker from Tennessee was healthy, he'd be a first rounder. And then you have to live with this fact. Say there's the 4. It's been 50-50 forever, Jess. 50-50 of who makes it and who busts. So if 4 go, that means 2 are going to bust, according to history. So, enjoy that, all the fans of those teams that drafted one of the quarterbacks. Did you get one that'll make it? And listen, there have
you
been
might not know for a few years.
and there have been times where it's all worked out. Go to Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, and Phillip Rivers. Listen, they're all going to end up in the Hall of Fame. So, that one all worked out pretty well. So we will see. So we'll keep an eye. Free agency starts pretty soon as well. And we have college basketball. We have Selection Sunday coming up. I love this time of year with that. Are you and we'll get into this more next week, are you a one-sheet or a multiple-sheet person for your contests?
I was actually just talking about this with Kate Fagan for our other podcast, Off the Looking Glass. And she made a point that is, I think, very salient, which is the amount of time you spend making your bracket does not correlate to your success with that bracket. So maybe I'll fill out 3, but I'm not going to spend more than 5 minutes total on it because I know it's going to suck either way.
Yeah, I'll fill out 15, but it'll only take me 10 minutes to do it because I'll just
scribble
rip
through it. I mean, you do it online now, but click, submit.
Exactly. It's so easy.
I know I'm going to lose. I'm going to basically might as well light this money on fire. I'm terrible at it.
And the people that always yell at me and say I only do 1, I say just make sure you're in the group that I'm in because I look forward to taking your money. Because when your sheet burns, and my sheet burns, I got like 14 15. Others.
Yeah.
So I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
This is going to be a really interesting. So I don't watch a ton of men's college hoops, and we'll talk more about this next week, like you said, after Selection Sunday. But I do watch a fair amount of women's college hoops, and the conference tournaments just ended.
Yeah.
And they were as good as they've ever been. There was a game with Tennessee and LSU where Tennessee upset LSU after a 17-point comeback. That was crazy. Indiana, Ohio State was crazy. Virginia Tech won the ACC. They look like they're going to get a top seed in the tournament. It's going to be a really, really interesting tournament. And other than South Carolina, I don't know. There's 5 teams in the women's side that could win.
But South Carolina, they do look good.
I haven't even mentioned UConn, obviously.
And I'm glad you didn't bring up Notre Dame getting shellacked in the tournament after they did win. They did win the ACC regular season by beating Louisville, and they got smoked by them in the tournament.
For any Notre Dame fans listening, so first off, congrats to Neil Ivey. She won ACC Coach of the Year, which is a huge honor. They won the regular season ACC. The last game of the regular season, star of the team, Olivia Miles, gets a non-contact knee injury. We don't know if she's going to come back yet. They haven't said anything because they don't want it to affect the seeding, but they won their first tournament game in the ACC tournament and then couldn't score 40 points the next night. They had no offensive answers against Louisville, which stinks because they beat Louisville twice in the regular season.
They did.
So it was a tough watch for.
What do we think? They're going to be on the 3 line? Do we think they'll be on the 3 line?
Probably, yeah. I mean, they have such a good regular season record. I don't see anyone jumping over them. But
boy, we need her back though, don't we?
So good. You know what? But the bright side, Mike, this is a really young team. And we said that last year during the tournament too. There were a lot of freshmen out there. There's a Cassandra Prosper is basically a senior in high school, and she's playing, for Notre Dame right now. So really young team. I think they'll be okay. I hope Olivia Miles gets better. And
me too. Well, I'm glad we're back, Jess. Though at the beginning of this, the way it sounded like you weren't real happy that we were back. That
I'm
so
happy.
mean to me.
You were mean to me about the Silmarillion.
I still don't know what that is. What does that word mean?
Don't worry about it. Honestly, don't get me started because we will be here for 4 hours and 11 minutes. I'll send you a YouTube video. How about that?
We won't be here for 4 hours because I'll hit leave on the meeting, and you'll be talking to yourself.
Fine. I'll start talking, and next week when you log in for next week's episode, I'll still be sitting here talking.
That sounds good to me. I look forward to it.
See you then.
See you.